Welcome to Get Celebritized. I'm your host, Aurea McGarry, and I'm very excited to introduce you to another fabulous guest today because here on the Get Celebritized show, it's all about helping you earn more so you can live more, so you can give back more. And today is part of a special series that I'm doing for the TEDx Sandiego event. And who doesn't love TEDx Talks? And the people that don that red dot are so incredible. And what TEDx is all about is sharing ideas. Many of you know that I did a TEDx last year and I absolutely changed my life. It's an experience like none other. And today I'm going to introduce you to somebody who has a wonderful platform that I'm excited to hear more about. So this is going to be good. Buckle up. Here we go. Let me introduce you to KishaLynn Elliott. She's an educator, an entrepreneur, and a multi-hyphenated artist. We'll find out what that is in just a minute. She's a vice president of operations and evaluation for the Monarch School Project, which serves students impacted by homelessness in Sandiego. And in 2023, just this weekend, June 11th, she is going to don the TEDx Sandiego stage. We're so excited for her. Her TED Talk is about Unhoused students are stronger than you think. No doubt. She's an author of CHILDish, Stories from the Life of a Young Black Girl. Please help me welcome none other than KishaLynn Elliott. Come on up. Woohoo!
Hi, good afternoon, Aurea. It's very great to be here on your show, and hello to your audience.
I'm so glad you're here, and it's such an honor to have all the TEDx speakers here, almost all of them from the Sandiego event. I'm going to put their website right up here because it is a sold-out event, so congratulations on that. But people can watch it virtually, watch it online, that's what I'll be doing right here from Atlanta. And the beauty of the TEDx Sandiego event is I love its community theme. Everybody is from the Sandiego area and benefits the community. So before we find out a little bit about you and your speech and your presentation, which is so needed with the children and the education, tell me a little bit about how you got the TEDx talk and why it's Sandiego is so special and how it's working the community. And speakers are not coming from all over the world. They are local people supporting Sandiego.
Yeah, well, it was one of those moments of synchronicity and serendipity. That's what I will call it.
I love it.
I had just completed and published a co-authored white paper that was basically telling the story of the research that I've been doing at the Monarch School on the social emotional learning of our students. Now, the research study is the first in the nation. It's the first time anyone has looked at the social emotional learning, that's SEL, growth of the unhoused population. And Monarch is a special place because we're able to do that because all of the students that we serve are experiencing homelessness. So we put this white paper out about this on the day of the TEDx deadline. And a colleague said, you know what you should do? You should put in for TEDx. And I said, oh my gosh, what is to give a TED Talk? That's like a bucket list dream of mine as a speaker and an artist. So of course I want to give a TED Talk. TEDx is about, like you said, sharing big ideas. And I thought to myself, what big idea do I have? Yes, I have a white paper, which sounds boring. And it talks about social emotional learning of students, which not everybody knows what that is or what that means. But I also have an amazing story in the work that we're doing at Monarch. And I thought the world would want to know about that. So I said, I think I do have a big idea. My big idea, and what the big deal about this white paper is that we are the first ones to study SEL in this population and find new information about what it means. What if my big idea was that we should always be looking at social emotional learning for all kids in all schools because it provides so much more information to go along with the academics that we already measure in the school system.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear about what the social emotional learning is because I've had two daughters in school. We're very creative people. Yeah, as you can tell, here I am, right? And I always knew there was a better way than just reading, writing, arithmetic, being
Absolutely.
in the box, having to take tests the way everybody takes a test. There's just so many
Yes.
more brain capabilities and learning styles. And I think we're learning it more in the last decade or so. But I want to hear more about this because they don't teach so many other things that are important when you graduate to go on to live fulfilled lives. So tell us,
Absolutely.
what is
Yeah.
this SEL?
So social emotional learning or SEL are all of the other things that you are indeed learning as you move through this journey called life, as you move through your schooling and education, and as you move through your work and careers. It is those factors about you that deal with your how you function in life. So think about things like self-esteem. Think
Mm.
about things like social awareness and your ability to be in relationships with others. When it comes to school and education, think about things like how much you value school, how much you can persevere and overcome obstacles to continue to learn, and how you can exercise agency in your life. And the thing is, I say we are learning these things. They are teaching SEL in schools. We were actually even, we might have had experience if you came through the US public school system where when you were in kindergarten, remember what a kindergarten, have you seen a kindergarten report card? There aren't necessarily letter grades on a kindergarten report card. You're getting graded on things like citizenship, citizenship and ability to listen. Those are social emotional learning skills. I
Ah,
don't know
nice.
why kindergarten and those elementary grades are the last times that we ever saw that kind of information on our
Yeah, why do we
report card.
stop? Why do we
I
stop?
don't
And are
know,
you
but
continuing it on? Are you helping it go through high
that's
school?
my big idea. So what we've
Okay.
done at Monarch is say, let's study, let's do a survey of our students and let's ask them questions about their sense of belonging, their self-esteem, their ability to regulate their emotions, their ability to express grit, to keep going when they face obstacles. And let's look at how those things grow over
You're
time,
opening a can of worms.
just like we look at reading and math. And so we did that over a period of 3 years.
Oh, wow.
For over 180 kids we followed, measured their SEL in the fall and went back in the spring to look at growth. And then we looked year over year at these factors to see how were they growing and what was that data showing us about the population that we serve.
When you're
And
surveying it, though, but in this is Monarch a school where you're also addressing it? Because it'd be different, I think, the
yes,
survey if you
correct.
did it in a school that isn't addressing it, and you might not see a growth because nobody's addressing it. So, are you addressing this in Monarch? Are you teaching this? What are you doing
This is
to
all
do
we
this survey?
do at Monarch in terms of our programming. What our programming at Monarch provides is social emotional learning in the areas of social growth. So think about our arts programs, our athletics programs,
Okay.
our after school programming,
And
but
school
also
too? All the
at school
academics? Okay.
during the school day, emotional growth programming. This is, access
Wow.
to behavior intervention and clinical therapists and relationships, mentor type relationships, and life skills development. So this is,
Good.
learning how to set goals and accomplish goals, persevere through obstacles. Monarch School Project provides that social emotional learning alongside the academics in the classroom. And a lot of schools are picking up social emotional learning, like they are teaching it. They are teaching it in schools right now. What they're not doing, and what my big idea to do, is to measure the impact. Because
Oh,
it's wonderful to say, we're going to focus on self-esteem this month at our school. So in addition to our English lesson, we'll have a conversation about what it means to grow your self-esteem. Those things happen in schools today, and that's a wonderful step. What
okay.
I'm putting forth is that, so why don't we measure it? Why don't we look at, did
It's gonna
that
make a difference.
learning make a difference? Did it have an impact? What impact did it have? And why don't we put those measurements, those results, next to the grades and the test scores? Especially when you look at our unhoused population that we're serving, and this is across the board. If you're only looking at academic data, you're going to see largely a deficient story. You're going to see a story of students that are behind in grade level in reading and math as a result of the transiency that they're facing being in unhoused, and as a result of the impact of a complex trauma like homelessness. So the grades are not enough to tell or to paint a full picture of what learning is happening or what learning is possible. But when you put the SEL data next to it, you begin to really see something that you can impact and influence, and that is being learned during the school day. There is a lot of learning happening in the school day that students are not getting credit for. And my big idea is to look at it, measure it, give them credit for it, and add it into the conversation that we're having about student outcomes, because grades alone and test scores
Yeah.
alone are not enough. And they're not telling the positive story that deserves to be told, especially about this vulnerable population.
So, on that note, moving forward in their life, if you're measuring this, which I love that you're doing this, tracking it, because I always believe inspect that which you expect. So, by
Exactly.
be able to do this, so good. Let's see what impact it has. So, now what do you see going forward? If you're measuring this, they're teaching this, hopefully they'll get better. More schools will teach more and bigger of this. Will this have an impact then on college? Do you think the colleges will now take that under consideration, and just instead of it in my day being all about the SAT scores before you can even get considered
Mhm.
to certain colleges with your extracurricular activity. But if that SAT score wasn't a certain number, you couldn't even get considered for some of the colleges, even if your academics and your arts was all great. It was that number that defined us back in the 70s and the 80s. What say you now?
Well, what I say is that when I am successful at this TED Talk on Sunday, the idea is to get the world listening to this idea. And it's not just an idea, oh, this would be nice. I've worked with the Jacobs Institute for Innovation and Education at the University of Sandiego here to really develop a tool. So we don't just say you should measure SEL in schools. We're able to say we've created a tool, the same tool that we've been using for 3 years at the Monarch School to measure SEL. We've created a tool that could be used any and everywhere. It's a tool that is composed of research-based measures like the Children's Hope Scale, the Rosenberg Self-Esteem Scale. These are scientific measures for SEL that have been put together and created one tool, one survey that can be used to give you this data. That's the big idea, is to pick this up. Additionally, our work continues at Monarch, and I'll tell you briefly, I started this study with USD in 2016, and we ran it all the way from 2016 through the 2019-20 school year. In fact, the last time we collected data in the survey was in January of 2020, and we were supposed to be wrapping the study up. Well, we all know what happened in March of 2020, right? The pandemic.
I don't know. What
Schools
happened in March of
closed.
2020?
Schools closed,
Yeah, they did.
shut down like a pencil drop, and remained closed for a period of anywhere between 18 to 20 months, depending on when your school began to start trying to reopen to when it was fully reopened. When
Yeah.
we reopened school in the spring of 2021, just a couple of years ago, I looked at our SEL study and I said, I know we were going to wrap it up, but I think what we have right now is a really good picture of what SEL looked like in this population before COVID. And I would never forgive us if we don't go back beginning in the 2023 school year and continue to measure SEL for the
Good.
next 3 years. That gives us an opportunity to do a few things. Number one, continue to tell the story, but also to really look at what was the impact of COVID. We can see the impact of COVID on academics, grades, and scores, no doubt. And it was bad.
Yeah.
Our kids did not come back to us the way they left us, and they
Mhm.
did not come back to us ahead of the game. That's just the fact. But what happened on the social emotional learning side? That's a story that we're able to tell as of this year because we have continued to do the study. Now, wouldn't other schools love to be able to answer those kind of questions when they think about what's going on? Wouldn't colleges and universities love to be able to have access to
Yeah.
some kind of information about who are we bringing in and what do they need? Because it is so much more than what they are capable of doing on a test or communicating through what they've learned in their classes. It's everything. We are whole people, and in our schools, we're teaching whole children. So we need to also measure whole children and look at the full picture when
Love
we
that.
determine what is student success and or failure. And I
What
don't
age
believe in
ranges?
student failure at all,
You're
by the
right.
way. I just don't. I just do not.
Yeah.
That's why my talk is called Unhoused Students Are Stronger Than You Think, because there
Amen.
is no failure.
Absolutely. What age ranges do you work with at your school?
Monarch is K-12, so we have the
Well,
full spectrum of
wow.
youth adolescent development from ages 5 all the way up through 18, which is when most students graduate. But
Right.
we also work with a large and growing population of alumni. So these are adult students that have gone on into college or career transitions, and we're still providing them for support. They are not included in our SEL survey at this time, but you've
Right.
given me an idea about how we continue this work in the adult SEL realm and send it along with them. But right now we do measure
Yeah.
we serve Monarch School serves K through 12, and I conduct the research on grades 3 through 12 because it's hard to get a 5-year-old to answer a 60-question
You
survey on
think?
Google Forms.
Well, wouldn't it be cool though if you absolutely did a 10-year research on the graduates, where they are at 28 years old or 30? I mean, because that would really make the difference going forward for the generations to come. If this makes an impact on their social skills, the jobs they got, the businesses they started, and then did that 10-year out, by the time they were 30, here's this whole, research on whether it made a difference and the tracking. What do you think about that? I mean, it's a long haul, but this is work that you're doing that will be passed on to generations. It
That
won't die
is
with you.
That is the exact idea. I am but one woman. I'm a lot of women, and I do a lot of
They
things.
are.
But the idea is not to make this about me and my study, not even to make it about Monarch. It's really to make it about kids and what our kids really deserves, especially the kids that are sitting in our nation's public school classrooms.
Right.
Okay, we make a huge investment in education, not just financial, but systemic investment. I
Mm.
don't want any of those systems to be flawed. And this is just one that I feel we haven't gotten quite right. And I'm passionate about having an impact and leaving a legacy in education. That's why I've worked there for 20 years, because I came up through this system. And I'm passionate about this element as well, because I graduated from high school in an unhoused situation. So I
Wow.
know exactly what it means and what it doesn't mean for a student to be experiencing homelessness. I know what it means that they possess, and I know what it means that they lack. And so this brings it all full circle for me. Speaking of circle, TEDx,
Ah,
the TEDx Red
but
Circle, it does bring it full circle, but it doesn't stop here. It doesn't even stop with me or with Monarch. It really stops with when the systemic changes in our education system are addressed and we start seeing better outcomes overall for all kids. Now, I just hypothesize that our ability to influence something so important in the nation's most vulnerable population, because there are unhoused students sitting in every school in this nation. It doesn't take a bunch of Monarch schools to help have this kind of change. We can have this kind of change by having these approaches, teaching and measuring social emotional learning in all schools. And so that's what I'm really going for.
That's so admirable. I love this. I can't wait for your TED Talk. This is great. But let me ask you this. In other states, I know this is really a community. You're starting it here in San Diego. But okay, people are listening from all over the world now. Let's just say all over the country. What if they want to start something like this in their school? And what is the impact that you're seeing? You're saying the unhoused, you're working with the children that are experiencing homelessness. Are you also studying ones that aren't homeless? Is there like a community that way? Or is it simply for the homeless? And if so, what is that makes that difference?
The population that I have been researching is exclusively the unhoused students that we serve at the Monarch School.
Okay.
However, the tool can be used any and everywhere on anyone can take the survey.
Okay.
In fact, it's not even the only social emotional learning measurement tool. There are a lot of measures out there. This is just one where we've put together a few of the most important factors, the things that we really want students to be able to learn, or the things that are really going to help propel them in life, like social awareness skills and having high self-esteem. And those things we've put together. And that is available for anyone. Anyone can access it and anyone can begin to measure.
What are your thoughts on it? I'm thinking that I work with a lot of nonprofits, a lot of charities, and I'm thinking that the homeless children probably will have more resilience, more, more passion to make things happen, to make a difference, to get out of their situation, versus the ones that are comfy, cozy. Because we know great things happen when you're uncomfortable. Great inventions are made when you're uncomfortable. And businesses are just products of solutions to problems. And if you're comfy and you have everything you want, and your kid, you get the luxury of just going to school, coming home, and everything being fine for those years. What are you seeing the difference in the unhoused children that are going through this social, I don't want to say experiment, but social emotional learning, versus the ones that are comfortable and not homeless and have a warm roof over their head and food in their bellies?
Well, your question even actually points to the core of my talk, which is that how we think about unhoused students is very different. Yes, we can imagine, and when we start a conversation or even just bring, a student that's experiencing homelessness to mind, what's going to flash across your mind is probably a sad story about what they lack. They need resources and probably the most optimistic that I've heard is, boy, I bet that they're real resilient though. All right. And
It sounds back, right?
oh, they must be so strong. And that is good. That is good. However, my idea and what I'm giving back in this talk is there's so much more to it than resilience. Okay. There is what our findings, the SEL study that we conducted showed. We expected when we started the study in 2016 that we would see maybe lower scores. We would see some work to do, some growth in this SEL, and in some or all, even all of these factors. And when we completed the first round of data, but certainly by the end of 3-year cycles, we said, whoa, wow. Number one, there's not a lot of growth in some of these factors because there wasn't room to grow to begin with. You're
What do you
talking
mean?
about rating yourself, for example, self-esteem on a 5-point scale. Well, if you start and all the responses are already 4 and 5 or 4.5, which you didn't expect, I didn't expect, you're not going to see a lot of growth once you get to 5. In fact, there's nowhere to grow. We presumed that we were going to see a deficit or a lack that really wasn't there or was much smaller than we imagined until we started asking the questions. We saw 60% of students reporting an increase or maintaining high levels of feeling safe at school. Do you know how important it is for a student to feel safe at school? Do you
Wow.
know how difficult it is for a student to feel safe in school today?
Yes.
Everything starts with safety first.
Mhm.
And so I think that was the big aha, is that it's not, you look at them and you go, oh, these students are probably struggling with this because they're that. And these students probably have no problem with this because they're that. And the answer is it's neither. But the only way you're going to find out is if you actually look and measure. And when we looked and measured, this is what we saw, and it's opening up the doors of all kinds of different questions. If it is true, if it can be true, that students who are unhoused actually have high levels of agency. Whereas we just imagine that agency is your ability to exercise decisions and set goals and navigate towards goals in your life. And we might just imagine that they're just victims of their circumstances and they take what they can get. No, that's not the story.
Mhm.
That's not the story. What does it mean when we start to approach this population or all students with the presumption that their agency skills are pretty high, their self-esteem skills are pretty high, their ability to regulate their emotions and control their behavior is pretty high? If we're not seeing that, then there must be something different in the approach. So that's the conversation that we need to have when it comes to the unhoused population. And I also want to speak very briefly to this is also why at the Monarch School Project, we actually don't refer to the students as homeless. We don't say homeless students. We do talk about homelessness, students who are experiencing homelessness or students who are living in a homeless situation,
You
but
say unhoused, right?
we refer to them as unhoused exactly because to call a student or a person homeless is to define them by that condition.
Mhm.
And a person is not defined by their conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, they are not. And so
Mhm.
just a simple thing, like just a simple shift like that, that I have to credit our leader, our CEO, who really came in and said, we're going to approach this work with dignity, not from a place of dignity and not from a place of charity. And that's also a very unique perspective when people are looking at unhoused versus housed students or students versus adults.
And I also like that you say unhoused versus homeless, because a home is wherever you have your heart. Where if you have one parent and you're in a car, that's your home. Your home is where your family is, your heart is, even if it's one person or 10 people living in a car. And
Yeah,
I love that you say unhoused, because a house is just a box, house is just a roof. And that roof could be a tent, that roof could be a bridge, that the roof could be anything. You're just saying they don't have the physical, roof that
yeah,
other those kids have. But the home, you're not saying they don't have a home. Their home is where they go home to their
mhm,
family, their parents, their sibling. That's home, even if it is under a bridge or in a tent. So
yes.
good for you for saying that, because you really made it so clear that it is just unhoused and that can be fixed. But home is forever. You'll have that home wherever you are.
Yes. And another thing that people I don't think realize when we're talking about homelessness as a social justice issue is that it's far easier to become homeless than you think.
Oh,
The education system actually, there's a law, the McKinney-Vento Act, which defines homelessness. And it is not one thing, it is a spectrum. That basically, if you don't have a fixed, adequate, and regular nighttime residence, you, and according to our school system, are experiencing or at risk of experiencing homelessness. So we think about homelessness as maybe the students and families living in shelters, or maybe the homelessness that we see on the streets. However, there's a spectrum and a side of homelessness where people are sheltered, but it's not fixed. It's not adequate. It's not regular. We have them
mhm.
living in cars, living in hotels, doubled and tripled up in studios and apartments with other families. All of that, in terms of our country's responsibility to educate youth, all of that fits under the homeless category or definition. And so when you invite people to think about that, they realize that there's more homelessness in our school systems than you imagine. You yourself, by a change of circumstances that have nothing to do with your socioeconomic background, could find yourself experiencing homelessness. And you better hope that if and when you do, just like I did when we did, that there will be teachers and mentors and educators and a system available to help you continue to navigate that as an obstacle and achieve your goals. That is what's possible. But people have to understand that, number one, it's not as far away as you think. And also, number two, there's more there than is missing because you're talking about people, and people have the capacity to grow and learn. And also, these people, this population, have proven in this study, they have proven to me that they actually possess a lot more strength than we would imagine.
Right.
That there is an impact, and we're getting that impact because they can come to school and safely learn reading, writing, math, and also get that social emotional learning to wrap around to help them experience life, to heal, to grow in community. Those things all matter. And that is exactly how we approach our work at the Monarch School, and how I feel all kids deserve to be approached in the
Amen.
school system.
So what is your ultimate, like, if what is your ultimate dream goal from all this? Like, when no one say, I know it's an ongoing journey, it's something we'll always be addressing, but if you could look back 10 years from now and look at this TEDx talk and look at your Monarch School, where would you love to be able to say, look where we are now 10 years from today? What would be that ultimate, this is success in your project?
I would say ultimately, I would measure some important outputs would be how many schools or how many school systems have incorporated SEL measurement alongside the SEL learning that's happening in their classrooms. Because, like I said, I did not pioneer SEL.
Okay.
This buzzword has been around in schools for years. There are many frameworks, there's social emotional learning programs, there's whole companies that come and do it. It's out there. I did not invent this. What I have done is measure this. And so I would love to see all schools measuring and giving that information back to the students would be a great start. But I think we need to feed science more of this. Right now, if you Google social emotional learning for homeless students, because they haven't, that shift to unhoused hasn't really, it's just starting to stick. If you
Right.
Google that, the only thing that's going to show up is my data, my research
Really?
data that aligned with USD. In 10 years, I don't want that to be the case. I want there to be a ton of information available about what, where, and how students are growing social emotionally and how that correlates to academic outcomes. So that's the first thing. Lots more measuring, lots more evidence of how this works. What is the impact of SEL on academics? I think the second thing that I would like to have happen is I would like to see the tool itself, the tool that we've created with USD take traction, because there's only one Monarch school,
Really?
one in San Diego. San Diego, we serve 300 students across K-12. Aurea, I hate to tell you this, but there's over 1.3 million unhoused students, school-aged unhoused students in the nation. Okay.
Wow.
And we're not going to open up enough Monarch schools to serve all of those kids. We don't need to. We don't
Right.
need to. What we need to do is to scale our practices. We need to make available what has worked here everywhere. And that's the work that we're trying to do. And we'll do that by helping people learn how we approach this work with students, how we do this work with students, and how we measure it. So if we scale the programs and practices across schools, the tool goes with it. And I would like to see that as well, so that every school that has students that are experiencing homelessness can feel supported by the approaches that we deploy at the Monarch School. Every leader and teacher who is sitting in their classroom with a student that they know is experiencing homelessness and don't know how to approach them, or don't know what that means for them or what it doesn't mean for them, they will be able to learn from what Monarch has taught them over 30 years of serving this population. So I don't want there to be a million Monarch schools. I don't even know if I want there to be another Monarch school. What I want is what Monarch's approach and our way to be in all schools,
Schools.
so that all students can be benefiting from it, whether they are unhoused or not, but certainly those unhoused students, because more than likely they are living in the shadows. They're not known, they're in shame, and they're not being seen for their full potential by
Right.
those who know their circumstances. And that's why this TED Talk is such an important catalyst for people to really start looking and thinking in that direction.
Well, that was a great segue, because I was just about to ask you, what are you hoping to gain from the partnership you've made with the TEDx community, with the San Diego event that's happening, and all the TEDx? Because TEDx, once you're a speaker, you're part of our family.
Yeah.
And such a great community, such a great stage, such a great worldwide stage. So, what are you hoping to gain in your community awareness for what you're doing by being on TEDx?
Yeah. When I remember when I had my first call with Audrey Jacobs, is the curator of TEDx San Diego. She's new. This is her first year. We're going to be on this journey with her for the next 10 years. So it's a good time point. And she had just tons of vision right off the start. When we had our first call and she told me, congratulations, you made it into TEDx, which I couldn't believe, because it had been such a last minute thing, like white paper and submit. And then I just did it live and sent it off. And I said, oh, we'll see if I get it. And when I did get it, she said to me, and I hold this vision in my heart, that the reason that she chose speakers from San Diego was to shine a light on the amazing work that we're doing. And it's more than just speakers. TEDx has done field trips where they've invited the community to our sites to come and actually see the things that they're going to hear about. So people are really getting excited. And Audrey told me the reason for that is that her vision is that San Diego will become known as global leaders in their category. So it starts small, we go deep in San Diego so that the impact can be big and global. And she told me it felt like she was looking at me, because Audrey is she's a big personality. We were just talking on the phone, but I swear I could feel her staring me in my eyes when she said, KishaLynn, I want you to be the global voice for social emotional learning for all kids in education. And I said, bing, that's a dream. Write it down. KishaLynn Elliott, global voice for social emotional learning for all youth in education. If I can get there in 10 years, if I can get there next Sunday, I will be happy. But one thing I know is that's the direction that I'm headed towards. And I tend to hit my mark as long as I keep going. And
I love that. Oh my God.
I can't be stopped.
And I've had so many of you on my Get Celebritized from this TEDx community. I've never done this type of partnership before. We're working with a lot of almost all the speakers from this one TEDx event coming on my show, talking to me. It has been such a pleasure and an honor to meet each and every one of you that have taken the time to be on this show or wanted to be on this show. And now you've got me excited. I've got to meet this Audrey. I have got to meet her, put her on the show after it's over, because I know she has been spending all of her time, all of her energy, as she should.
Yeah, we're not playing here this week.
No, I do events. I know this is not happening. But after this is over, I cannot wait to have her on the show and have her look back at all this success and pat her on the back as the well-deserved applause she deserves. And she won't give herself. We know that. But to show what she's done and be the impact on other people that may be wanting to make this global impact in their city. Because she's setting a standard. She's setting a platform that can be duplicated because she's starting this idea. So it's an idea within an idea of sharing ideas on the TEDx, how to do a TEDx. So it's just magnificent how this is all happening. And I cannot wait to meet her as we speak, after this is all over. Because if you're any example of the people she has curated together, she just must be this most amazing unicorn. And I can't wait to meet her.
She is an absolute unicorn and absolutely amazing. Thank you.
You better give her a hug this weekend for me.
I will. Well, I won't be able to escape her.
Y'all need to tell her Rhea says hi, give the hug. Everybody break a leg. I cannot wait to be there, at least online, to see you all. I've got lots of friends to be there. Rachel's going to be there. I think Becca's going to be there. All the cool people. But I'll be watching as like a fly on the wall, because you all are going to make this world so proud, and your community so proud, and your causes and your ideas so proud. The world's going to hear you. The world's going to know who you are and who you're helping. And you're going to get a lot of new fans from that to help your mission and your project. So with that, I want to ask you, I know you're an author, so tell us a little bit, now we know about the Sandiego, what you're doing. Let's get just a little more personal as we kind of wrap up. You're an author. You're just so many amazing things. Tell us about your book and anything else you want the audience to know about KishaLynn as a person as well.
Perfect. Well, yeah, I thank you for that opportunity as well. I'm every woman, and it's all in me. I am an artist, and I'm every woman. Well, I don't know if you got the license for it, so I didn't want to get you in trouble.
Right.
I say in my bio, I define myself as a multi-hyphenate artist, and I mean that. Multi-hyphenate just means I do a lot of different forms. I wish I could just call myself an author, but the reality is I'm an author and a playwright and a poet. And I'm an entrepreneur, so I am an editor. I run a publishing company. I'm a speaker. I'm a coach. And there's a lot of and because bios have a word count limit, I just say multi-hyphenated artist. But writing and books specifically are my main art. Words are my superpower. Words of affirmation are my love language. I'm just a word person. So I wrote my first book 10 years ago. But then 5 years ago, I decided it was really time for me to put my stories down and out. And I wasn't really ready to write an autobiography. But what I did have was this collection of stories that followed these themes. So I put out the book CHILDish, Stories from the Life of a Young Black Girl. And it is a collection of about a dozen stories from my childhood that follow the theme of a child who grew up too soon. Now, I was healing through a lot of that pain and trauma that happened in my childhood. And putting the book out was like the final push for my own personal healing. What I didn't expect is that when readers got a hold of the book, they started saying, oh my God, other people went through this. I feel so seen. That book was healing for me. I am a healer at heart. Actually, art falls under the healing. So when I said, oh my gosh, the more I do this, I heal myself and heal others too. Let's keep going. I have a whole lot of growing left to do after CHILDish is over. And so that growth has occurred and is now available in the second book in the series. BlackWomanGrown was just released a week ago. Tomorrow, 6 days ago.
Congratulations.
CHILDish, the book, and we have BlackWomanGrown as a collection of stories. And then through that, you get to know me. My story is I started as an only child of a single teenage mom. We went through a number of challenges, overcame obstacles, including a couple of different forms of homelessness, and some, just some violent and scary situations that ultimately I was able to graduate and go on to college on a full scholarship. So I go and I attend college, Spelman College, on a full scholarship. And the second book is about what was that like? How does this child who had this very adult-like childhood grow up and grow through college and grow into the person everyone that is in the world today, coaching, giving, serving, speaking, creating, and sharing fully, and not allowing anyone to stop, not allowing anyone or anything to stop them. So that's BlackWomanGrown. And my readers of CHILDish have been waiting. CHILDish ends on a cliffhanger. So they've been waiting 5 years to find out what happens. And I'm glad to finally answer those questions and to continue the conversation, not just about my life, but I think when people read my stories, it became very clear to me, they're not seeing me at all. KishaLynn has left the room. People are seeing themselves as they move through these pages. And that was something that I didn't expect. Now that I know it's there, I cannot wait for people to take this next journey with me and to hear how it affects and impacts them.
Yeah, you said something that I really love that just resonated with me. Through all of this, you're talking about your story and your collection. That you said just the right thing. You said so other little girls and women can feel seen because they see themselves in your story. So I love that because women were so usually bashful about talking about it because we don't want the spotlight usually on us. But if we don't do that, we're not allowing other women, other children, other little girls to be able to say, wow, she went through that too. And it helps them feel seen, helps them feel like they can do it too. So good for you because that's very brave. It's very needed. And it also, I think this next generation coming up will do more of that being vulnerable, being seen so others can see themselves in you, which is so needed. Because too many times, especially as we were talking about the pandemic earlier, people get into that depression, get into that loneliness feeling when they think they're all alone. They think they're the only one feeling this way or going through this trauma or experience this. And they know there's nothing we could say or have experienced that somebody else hasn't been through it. May not be me, may not be you, but there's somebody else that can relate to you. And how are we going to find those people if they don't write them down, share their stories, have a podcast, have a movie, whatever it is, so somebody can say, I can't believe somebody else knows exactly how I feel.
Yeah, you could not be more right, Aurea. And that somebody else is the payoff for that vulnerability, because I know it's hard to get there. I know it's hard to put yourself out there. You're talking to a woman that wrote a book with a story in it about her first time with another woman at age 16 years old. You want to talk about being awkward and vulnerable? There it is, right on the page, literally. And that my mom is going to read. But you know what? Even as I felt a way about that, hearing back from people who said, oh my gosh, your experience was just like mine. Oh my gosh, I didn't know. I thought I was the only one. And they're not just people like me. We're not just talking about other Black people
Right.
or queer people. I had white, cisgendered, blue-eyed, blonde-haired men talking to me about being able to relate to just that one story of
Wow.
my first time story in the book. And so when people give that back to you, when they give you their own healing back, it's just, you're just like, oh God, what can I tell next? What can I share next? I'm not afraid anymore. I'm not gonna be afraid of that anymore, because I want that payoff of the impact. I'm just addicted to impact, almost as addicted to impact as I am to words. But I have words for days. So
So, speaking of which, do you have any more books in the future?
So I am literally catching my breath from putting this one out. But the answer is yes. I have a lot more books and art in the works. I have moved into, I mentioned one of my multi hyphens is that I'm a playwright. And I've written a few 10-minute plays and what's it called? Oh, I'm blanking on the word, but 145, like one longer play. And so I'm going to be exploring more in the playwriting world. And I do have more books coming, but they're not necessarily books that are so closely tied to personal stories from my life. Might dabble in some fiction. And I'm also learning the process of screenwriting right now, either to develop potentially a TV series or even a short film. So it was really important to get this book out so that I could like not feel so connected to this collection of stories and the way that I'm doing books. And I also am a publisher, so I don't just do my books. I am here to help any author, aspiring author with any part of the process as well. And those will probably be some of my next projects because a lot of people have been waiting for me to finish my book so that I can help them get their book done. So
Uh,
follow me and just watch. Just watch.
Well, I put your Instagram up too, Coach KishaLynn, so it's up as well. Absolutely. Me. And I put your www.black.life, which is BLAAC.life up as well, and they'll be in the description. But you better call me when it's time for you to do a TV show, TV series, because I'm all everything to do with TV. So be calling me.
Yeah, you can read out, you can give me feedback on my beat sheet.
I love it. Well, you have been a pleasure and a joy. I love your passion, and I so love, as a mompreneur, your love and passion for the next generation, for the kids that are being forgotten, where it's just like, go to school, make it through, get to the other side, and maybe you'll make it to college, maybe you won't. And you're just making it such a better experience, and you're tracking it, and you're doing what needs to be done. Whereas finding out those surveys, finding out the results, seeing the impact that it actually makes. And you talked a lot about, this whole conversation was about your impact, your legacy, and how you're also partnering with the TEDx and that whole world and that whole amazing community of people that share ideas. But I'm going to ask you this question anyway, because I love asking this question. I built my whole last probably 15 years on my Live Your Legacy TV, my Live Your Legacy Summits, all about living your legacy on purpose. So I'm going to ask you as our closing question. So whatever you want to say is perfectly fine. What is KishaLynn's legacy? How do you really want to be remembered when this is all said and done?
I want to be remembered as someone who healed the world by healing herself.
Aw. That's so profound, short, sweet, and simple. And you will. And you, KishaLynn, are already living your legacy on purpose. This whole conversation is all your legacy. You'll be remembered for all of this. And I love that you want to live a life bigger than your lifetime. And that's what it's all about. There was a saying, I forgot who said it. It was either Oprah or it was Mel Robbins. I love all the inspirational speakers, listen to them all the time. And they said, a legacy is planting a tree today that you know you'll never sit under its shade, because it's something that's outliving you. Mm-hmm. So plant that tree today, even though you'll never have the luxury of sitting under its shade, but the next generation will totally enjoy that tree. Absolutely. And that's what you're doing.
Yes. And the TEDx Sandiego theme this year is Seeds of Change.
Look at that.
Yeah, so it all is perfect. And again, it all comes full circle. What a beautiful, beautiful interview. Thank you so much for having me on your show today, Aurea.
Thank you. It's been an honor and a pleasure. We got to get this on now, because this TEDx is happening this weekend. Yeah. I will be there. It's sold out, but you can go to TEDxSandiego.com and watch it online. And then, if you're watching this months down the road, years down the road, you can go and find them on YouTube under that TEDx Sandiego. Look up their names, and you'll be able to see KishaLynn and all the wonderful speakers, the impactful speakers from this TEDx event. And I cannot wait to meet your founder and director, Audrey, who's doing amazing things. I know this is the first of many TEDx's she's going to be doing, and it's not easy to be a TEDx curator. There's a lot of hoops to run through, because it is heavily, heavily monitored, and you have to do everything the right way. You have to be accepted.
It's all volunteer.
All volunteer, and it is a lot of rules and regulations. It's not for the faint of heart. It's not for everyone. So she, just by doing this and launching this event is a big deal. Not everyone can do this. That is for sure. So hats off, big applause. So excited. Cannot wait. Go break a leg. And y'all that are listening, I'm so glad you were here on Get Celebritized, where we hope we inspired you today to not only earn more, but to live more, live big, live on purpose, live your legacy, and to be able to give back more and make that impact for generations to come. So thank you, KishaLynn, so much. Thank you to the TEDx community. We will see you on the big red dot. Thank you. See you next time.